Vicker is shocked by what she says. He is still holding her wrist and asks who the Nighthound killed. Through tears, Sinclair tells him it was Bartholomew, the head of the bourgeois family. She looks straight at him and with her voice breaking says the Nighthound killed her father. A heavy silence falls over the moonlit rooftop. Vicker looks down, his thoughts racing. He never expected this. The friendly girl he knew was the only daughter of the man he had just killed. Suddenly, everything makes sense. He remembers how strange she acted when her family came up and realizes she had been hiding who she really was. He also remembers how familiar Damien's daughter Juliet felt, and now understands the two girls were cousins. Most of all, he finally understands why Sinclair showed such deep hatred toward him in the vault. It wasn't just shock from seeing someone die, it was anger at the man who killed her father. While he is thinking, Sinclair wipes away her tears. She apologizes for lying to him. She says she promised herself she would never tell anyone, but she couldn't hide her pain from him. Then she quietly shares more news. She has decided to leave the academy. Vicker listens in silence. Sinclair explains that her whole life had been focused on one goal, succeeding at the academy. She wanted to be the best student, win every contest and become student council president. She gave her youth to those dreams. But now none of that matters anymore. She has realized there is something far more important, something that changed how she sees life. With new determination in her eyes, she tells Vicker that before she leaves there is one last thing she wants to do. She turns to him, hopeful, and says the most important thing to her now is being with him. Her sudden confession leaves Vicker speechless. He turns away, unable to look at her, and tells her he is not the great person she thinks he is. Sinclair moves closer and firmly tells him he is wrong. With a sincere smile, she says he is more amazing to her than anyone she has ever met. She reminds him of the freshman welcome party, when he kindly helped a struggling pig and how that caught her attention. She talks about how surprised she was to learn the Quyan boy in her class was the same Vicker who could face any challenge. She remembers how he jumped into a filthy sewer to recover something important, shocking her with his selflessness. She recalls his strength, how he endured a brutal beating without fighting back or betraying his values. Most clearly, she remembers her darkest moment when he did the impossible. He broke through the gate and she ran into his arms in tears, relieved that he had come back. After this, her face grows serious. She brings up something painful from that night. She tells him that when the Nighthound killed her father, Dolores was there too. She says it was obvious they were working together. Her eyes glow with hurt as she explains how deeply this betrayed her. She had trusted Dolores more than any other upperclassman, and seeing her beside her father's killer broke her trust completely. Then she looks at Vicker with desperate hope and tells him he is the only person she can still trust. She reminds him of his newspaper articles criticizing the Nighthound and says that proves he understands how evil the criminal is. Leaning closer, she begs him, saying he is all she has left, the only one who could truly understand her. When she finishes, Vicker quietly says her name. He stands up and in a serious voice acknowledges her pain and her feelings. Turning his back to her, he gives his answer. He tells her he cannot accept her confession right now. He feels heavy with guilt. He knows that accepting her feelings out of pity would be cruel and wrong. More importantly, he carries a terrible truth. Even though the man he killed was the demon Belial, he is still the Nighthound, the one who murdered her father. His rejection hits Sinclair hard. Her lips tremble and a tear slides down her cheek. She asks if he means he can't accept her feelings right now. Holding on to a small bit of hope, she asks if he might accept her someday. Vicker hesitates, torn inside. He knows he should give her a clear answer and end her hope. He starts to speak, but before he can, Sinclair reaches out. She steps forward and wraps her arms around him tightly. She tells him not to answer. Instead, she whispers one last painful request, asking him to just hold her this once. Vicker is stunned as she presses her face into his shoulder. He doesn't hug her back, but he doesn't push her away either. He stays silent, letting her cry softly in the night. As Vicker stands there with the broken Sinclair in his arms, his thoughts drift back to his past life. He now sees her as a naive girl, but he remembers that in the future, during the time of destruction, the Borgia family was an important support for humans fighting demons. He thinks that Sinclair, as the head of her family, must have secretly helped the resistance. He feels deep respect and sadness, wondering what suffering this fragile girl went through to become the unknown hero of his past. Guilt and a sense of debt fill his heart, and he tightens his fist. He knows that what he is doing now, even if he means well, might not truly help her. Slowly he relaxes his hand. For now, he decides the only comfort he can give is simply to stay by her side. At last he wraps his arms around her as they stand together under the wide sky full of stars. At the same time, in the director's office at Colosio Academy, Director Winston gives a report about the campus greening project and upgrades to the magical systems. He says they have more than doubled the number of trees and flower beds. For the final exams and parent-teacher meetings, the stadium's magic stones have been replaced with new models. However, Deputy Headmaster Vinci Morgue is worried about how strong and reliable these new magic stones are since they have not been fully tested. Director Winston smiles kindly and says that Vinci, as always, cares deeply about student safety. Vinci brushes off the praise and says he is just a timid man worried about keeping his job, but Winston knows that is not true. He says he has worked hard to meet Vinci's expectations and slides a small decorated box across the desk. Vinci opens the box, surprised. Inside is a green bracelet with a glowing purple gem. Winston explains that it is a special key that can pass through the new magical barriers. He suggests that students wear them to avoid security problems. Vinci picks up the bracelet, feels its magic and asks if they can make many of them. Winston says the student bracelets are already prepared, and more can be made for professors if they have enough resources. Vinci admits this does not solve his concerns about durability, but it is still a helpful step. He puts the bracelet back and agrees to the plan. Once that issue is settled, Vinci becomes serious. He tells Winston there is another matter to discuss, something not included in the official report. The mood in the room changes. Vinci says it concerns Professor Sadie's dismissal, and both men grow tense. Winston asks why this topic is being brought up again, thinking it was already finished. Vinci explains that a formal complaint has been filed against a Capitol Guard officer for neglecting his duties. Vinci becomes furious. He says the officer writes too many reports but refuses to do real police work, like searches and arrests. He also says the officer lost important security information, and he slams his hands on the desk. Vinci declares this is more than simple negligence. It damages the reputation of both the guard and the academy, and he demands strict punishment. Winston calmly raises his hand to stop him and agrees that punishment is needed. But when Vinci suggests firing the officer, Winston turns to look out the window. In a firm voice he says that while punishment is necessary, he will decide what it will be. Angry at what he sees as a dismissive decision, Vinci shouts that it makes no sense. Winston cuts him off. Without turning around, he firmly ends the meeting and tells Vinci to leave for the day. Still angry, Vinci storms out of the office. As he walks down the hallway, his suspicions grow stronger. He is now sure that Director Winston is hiding something important. The director's refusal to let him handle the case feels like a clear warning to stay away from it. His determined walk stops when a group of men blocks the corridor. One of them asks if he found what he was looking for. A man in a brown jacket with a fur collar hands Vinci a folder and tells him to read the documents inside. Vinci opens the folder and finds a historical report. It describes a bloody event from 35 years ago, shortly after the Empire was united. A massive coup attempt led by the heads of 47 noble families. As he reads, his face becomes serious. The report tells of a large massacre and an invasion of the imperial palace. The rebellion failed, and 46 of the 47 family heads were executed. The survivors were sent to the high-security prison called Vaj. Vinci asks why this particular historical record was being investigated. The man then reveals a shocking theory. He says he believes that both Director Winston and Professor Sadie are connected to the coup of the 47 families, the worst event in the Empire's history. 1 week after the vault incident, the capital city of Vanacore is full of energy. Colossio Academy is holding a special lesson for parents and students, and many important people from the Empire have come, including the 7 great families and other nobles. But everyone is focused on the final ranking match. The grand final of the exams is about to begin in the huge Colosseum. A large board shows the tournament bracket. From the first-year Ice Corps, Tudor and Bianca are listed. From the first-year Fire Corps, Granwall and Sinclair will compete. From the third-year Fire Corps, Dolores will fight along with a serious-looking male student. Vicker stands in the crowd looking like a normal student with glasses and a backpack. He blends in easily, but his attention is fixed on one person, Sinclair. Behind his glasses, his red eyes focus on her. He remembers meeting Sinclair on a rooftop the night before. She apologized for being persistent and said she needed to ask him one last question. She reminded him that he had said he could not accept her confession right now. Then she asked hopefully if that meant he might consider her feelings in the future after he achieves his goals. Her question surprised Vicker completely. He looked up at the starry sky and thought about a future he had never allowed himself to imagine. His life had always been about revenge. In that moment he realized he had never thought beyond that. He told Sinclair that his goals were set in a harsh and distant future. But if he ever achieved them, she might be right. Maybe then he would finally be free. Hearing this, Sinclair accepted his answer. With new determination, she said that was enough. Her feelings were her own, and she would wait for him, even if he told her not to. As she started to walk away, Vicker called out to her. He told her not to throw away everything she had worked for. Her efforts mattered. His words made her stop. Tears of relief fell from Sinclair's eyes as she looked at the moon. With a grateful smile through her tears, she thanked him. Back in the present, Vicker watches Sinclair from the crowd. Seeing her name on the tournament board, he understands her choice. She wants to win before leaving the academy to follow her own path. As he watches her, he clenches his fist. He knows his own time at the academy is also ending. He thinks about the dark future he knows is coming. He once read old memoirs about a terrible event called the Colosseum tragedy. It was one of the worst disasters before the fall, an apocalypse that reminded the world of the true demonic threat. After calculating the timeline, Vicker knows the disaster will happen in about 6 months. His decision is clear. After finishing his business here, he will leave the academy and prepare for the coming catastrophe. His red eyes glow with strong determination. He knows his path will lead him to a place full of suffering, the world's worst prison, Nouvelle Vague. The image of the dark and terrifying prison fills his mind and strengthens his resolve to go there. Back in the Colosseum, the crowd becomes louder as the announcer declares that the final matches are about to begin. The first match is called. Tutor La Mancha Don Quixote, a first year from the Ice Corps, enters the arena holding a glowing blue shield and a spear. His opponent is Bianca Faux Usher, also a first year from the Ice Corps. She carries a bow and has a similar energy shield. In the stands, a large man in golden armor shouts. He yells at Tutor that their family's honor is at stake and that he must win. He even tells him not to come home if he loses. This man is Cervantes, the head of the Azure Spearman family. Nearby, a man with long dark hair sits with his arms crossed, looking annoyed. He is Roderick Faux Usher, the head of the mystical Archer family. Complaining about the noise, he calmly tells his daughter Bianca to teach that rude family a lesson. Tutor tells Bianca that he is sorry, but he will have to defeat her because his father is watching. Bianca calmly replies that her father is watching too, and she has no plan to go easy on him. Tutor is shocked and asks how she could have gone easy on him when he ranked higher in the midterms. Bianca calls him an idiot and says she let him rank higher because she knew he would complain all day if he lost. The two rivals start arguing fiercely, insulting each other and daring one another not to complain about the result. Their anger rises and their bodies burst with fiery energy as they prepare to fight. Watching from the stands, Granwall shows his disgust. He thinks Tutor and Bianca, even though they are from great families, are acting without class. Then he turns to Sinclair beside him and calls her a commoner. He boldly declares that he will take first place in the Fire Corps match. He says he cannot allow a commoner to take that honor, especially not become the interim student council president. With a smug smile, Granwall explains that this was his push and pull plan to turn them into rivals, hoping it would make Sinclair interested in him. Sinclair is not impressed at all. She finally speaks, calmly telling him that his behavior is childish, then starts to walk away. Granwall stutters in confusion, and Sinclair repeats her words in a cool, steady voice. His confidence disappears. He slumps in his seat and mutters a weak apology. Elsewhere, Dolores is lost in her troubled thoughts. She sighs as she sits alone on a park bench, her mind focused on one person. She worries about what she could say to Sinclair. Her thoughts return to the vault, replaying the moment when an angry Sinclair violently pushed her away. Dolores has tried to talk to her since then, but Sinclair has been avoiding her. Dolores feels helpless, wondering how she could ever explain what really happened that night. As she sits there worrying, someone suddenly approaches and startles her. It is Vicker walking toward her. An idea quickly comes to her mind. She remembers how close Sinclair and Vicker seemed to be. Desperate to reconnect with her friend, Dolores decides that asking Vicker for a favor might give her a chance to speak to Sinclair. She knows it is not a fair move, but she feels she has no other option. Just as she is about to call out his name, a small girl runs past her, shouting, "Daddy Vicker," with pure happiness. Before Vicker can react, the little girl, Pomerian, hugs him tightly and happily tells him how much she missed her daddy. The scene shocks everyone around them. People begin whispering, wondering if a little girl really just called a student her father, with some even saying they look alike. An older man with a mustache watches Vicker with suspicion. The idea that the young student might be a father causes such a stir that Vicker grabs Pomerian and runs away. An aristocratic couple comments on how ridiculous it is, joking that one child seems to have given birth to another. But no one is more shaken than Dolores. The sight hits her hard, her legs give out and she drops to her knees in the park. She looks up in complete shock and can only whisper one disbelieving word, "Daddy."